Hello and welcome to Wisdom and the Enneagram home session. It is July 1st and the weather is just right for a day of learning indoors. Our topic today is integration, seeing big picture. Alrighty folks, now that that little joke's out of the way, hello and welcome, or Shemaya Criso, as they say in Wales. Let's begin. Hang on, I do believe I'm muted. No, I'm not, it's the PowerPoint. Okay, so we will continue to do our acknowledgement of country as it matters in all places within Australia. In affiliation with USQ, which with our new rebrand is now UniSQ, exciting stuff along those lines. Wisdom and the Enneagram acknowledges the traditional owners of the land on which we gather today. These are the Gayabal and Jarawar peoples of the Toowoomba area where the USQ Toowoomba campus was built. We pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. So that was the greeting, and I've left it up there. I can, as I just said briefly before, considering how and why we acknowledge Australia's original custodians, in part it affords us moments to look into the past and learn sobering lessons for compassion, understanding, non-reactivity, a big theme of what we do here within the Enneagram system, and love, something that we can do everywhere, every day, not just at important institutions. There is no more important institution than the home. So, and I've got to watch my speed. So we are a new kind of club. Wisdom and the Enneagram aims to facilitate the well-being of the whole person through its teaching and learning. We are an expansive, expanding space for all people, regardless of circumstances, to know love, peace, healing and restoration, and show up in their communities with joy and hope for the future. Mind, heart, body. Untroubled mind, unwavering heart, unblemished body. This is the central prayer and tenet of Enneagrammic practice. In other words, anger, shame, and fear. These must disappear from the psyche. Our topic today, seeing big picture. We've been moving, no, that's all right, Zach, thank you. Still working out on our alignment as a team, but we're getting better. I hope everyone can see this text clearly. It's cutting in and out a bit on my end, but we'll get it sorted. We've been moving at a steady, almost slow pace through the Enneagram system, trying to methodically examine and understand its components and the dynamics of their interplay. We began with an overview of the 9 Ennea types, briefly discussed wings, as they are commonly taught and understood, and in our last session, I introduced instinctual variants. Optimally, you can implement your own research to enhance your learning and fill in any information that I skip over. There will be some as we try to cover a wide swathe of information. I want to now speed things up to a degree. I'll continue in order to types, to types 5, 6, and 7 within the head-based triad, to provide general examples and maintain a level of consistency. However, we are now moving away from basic nomenclature and structure. I'll try to succinctly cover and summarize what I believe to be key things that need to be grasped, and the rest I'll weave through as cohesively as possible as opportunities present themselves. Oh, yep, thank you. Oh, okay, thanks. I need to work on my speed, as I've mentioned. So why these changes? Why are we speeding up through this system? So My understanding of the Enneagram system is changing and deepening rapidly as I read, research, and apply what I learn in my life. This being the case, I need to not only speed up in some sense, I also need to go back and blow up some things I have said and explained. I don't want to provide limited information. I don't want to provide misleading information, certainly, but a thorough Enneagrammic understanding takes us through limiting models into a big picture panorama of a system of perpetual motion and integration of the whole human being. And that's where we'll come in today. So let's quickly, but not too quickly, skim through a lot of this basic nomenclature. We have our intelligence centers, also referred to as basic triads or basic centers. So 8, 9, and 1 fall into what's referred to as the body-based body or gut triad, which is represented, has the qualities within those types of being somatic, so more predominant in the physiological than the cerebral, the mental, and the emotional, and they're defined in different with different characteristics by anger. Within the heart-based or heart triad, we have types 2, 3, and 4, characterized by the feeling and emotion being predominant, and that characterological pattern of shame, again, manifesting in different ways across the 3 types. And then our head-based or head or thinking triad, 5, 6, and 7, characterized by being predominantly mental, intellectual, and being troubled by fear and anxiety, as the other triads are by anger and shame. All types, of course, or people, and all types of people, of course, are shaped by anger, shame, and fear. But these are the ways that things are structured more generally in life. And you'll observe that as you interact with people with this knowledge. Some slightly more nuanced components. Harmony triads developed by Dr. David Daniels, where we see that people fall roughly into groups of relationship focus, groups of a pragmatic focus in the world, and groups of a more idealistic focus in certain senses of those words. So you'd find 2, 5, and 8 in that relationship harmony triad, concerned with relationships and the different ways that they are skewed or abused. The pragmatists concerned with the most fundamental means of getting by and making it through the world, which are our 3, 6, and 9, and are all very interconnected, which you'll see as you study the diagram. And then our idealists in 1, 4, and 7, looking for an ideal future, and trying to bring that about in various ways, often unhealthy, as the types are more stuck in their personality, in the false structures of their personality. Closely related, harmonic groups. A lot of these have very similar titles: harmonic groups, harmonic triads, harmonic pattern. These are all different names for the same thing, which just looks at the types being roughly divided up into how they deal with the frustrations and the challenges of life in a simple way. So you have 2, 7, and 9 in what's thought of as the positive outlook group. 1, 3, and 5 are trying to overcome those frustrations through competency, some kind of competency. And then our 4, 6, and 8 are reacting to what's going on. So our Hornevian types or triads, I don't actually know where this has originated. I'm not too versed on this one. I'm versed on it as it's otherwise known as interpersonal coping styles or stances. So this is quite a simple one. This is the 3, 7s, and 8s who move against people to get what they need and what they desire in life. 2, 6, and 1, the compliant and dutiful, moving towards the demands of people, the needs of a group, even towards the, in more psychological terms, towards the demands of the superego in the case of the 1. That's slightly more nuanced. And then, of course, 4, 5, and 9, in more or less obvious ways, are withdrawing from people into their own world, their own sphere, to move through the world and to deal with its frustrations. And then another similar group of 3, the dominant affect or feeling. So correlating with the harmony triads, 2, 5, and 8, that dominant affect is rejection, the fear of rejection driving 2, 5, and 8 into needing to give, needing to withdraw, needing to assert. 3, 6, and 9, they have more or less a healthy attachment to people. In 3, it shows up in the way they nurture a winning image. In 6, it's more of a dependent, anxious energy, obviously. And then in the 9, it's referred to as the over-adapted personality, because it has, on the outside, it's so it seems to be so well attached to its relationships. And then 1, 4, 7, lining up, correlating with that idealism, is the frustration as it's not met perfectly in real time. So a swathe of psychological categories of analysis can be seen through the lens of the Enneagram to melt into a single pot of individual experiences of lostness, disconnect from the image of God, which is the root of our delusion, the image of God being a religious and spiritual symbol of great significance. But we'll set that aside for now and think of it in terms of a human being perfected in love and in the realization of the virtues. Hope you're all tracking with me so far. Thanks, Zach. Hello again. It's a slight thing to be addressed there, and we're moving on. Thank you for tracking with me so far. So the previous list still hasn't covered basic motivations or tri-type. Very, very important, essential things to learn about this Enneagram system. We will, as I say here, as I've written as a note to myself, so I would remember what to say to you guys. So I'm sorting through a lot of information very quickly, trying to, so things aren't as organized as I'd like them to be. I do apologize. My aim with starting this club and continuing it is to facilitate as comprehensive an understanding of the Enneagram system as possible as a university club experience. From here, I do hope many people will go on to apply the lessons of the Enneagram throughout their lives. I have been applying them and have seen the fruits in subtle and sometimes in quite dynamic ways. So thank you for being here and for being patient as we sort through this, as I sort through this. Okay, the overview of our topic for today, integration, seeing the big picture. Towards the middle, spiritual significance of line convergence, and then I'll briefly touch on the wings that I discussed in a previous video. Towards the middle, so this is I should have referenced this. I've been slack in this regard. I apologize. I've taken this from Ian Cron. You can look him up on YouTube, his material on the Enneagram. So away from talk, the single conclusive upward growth path, and one of disintegration inversely, for example, 5 integrating to 8 in action and disintegrating to 7 in mental burnout. A complete Enneagrammic practice ceases to identify with a limiting personality having its confines squarely in nature and culture alone. This kind of practice, a complete Enneagrammic practice, wants to get at the whole of being, the totality of humanity, the summit of potentiality, towards the spacious middle of the Enneagram diagram of virtue and love. It wants to get away from the dictates of evolution and purely biological powers and power and authority, and be conformed in autonomous, that is self-governing expression to the liberating ideal, the image of God, as I mentioned just briefly before, understanding that as to be the love in the peace between all things. So I've continued in the last video with the instinctual variants. I know this is trying to condense a lot of material, and I apologize for any confusion. Please continue to do your own research. And for those who are watching this at a later time as a recording on YouTube, please comment with any questions, any concerns, any thoughts in general, and I'll be happy to address those and try to make this as organized and pleasant and engaging an experience as possible for everyone. So I can't know, nor can any of we, by way of experience as such, the particularities and extremities of every type in the Enneagram system, at least not at our core. By contemplating the lines of the types in the head-based triad, 5, 6, and 7, and of all types, however, we can illuminate how each, whoopsie-daisy, how each integrates new aspects of being across the system, the diagram, and becomes transformed through this integration process. Of course, integration is for every type of person and is one word to describe becoming out of many potential others. So here's a neat little diagram of what I'm trying to explain today. I hope this is familiar to a degree to most people who have some degree of familiarity with this system. For those who don't, I'll try to explain this as best I can, but just understand that we'll be using terms major and minor lines, and keep in mind these numbers here, 5 to 7 and 8 and 4 and 6, 6 to 3 and 9 and 5 and 7, and 7 to 1 and 5 and 6 and 8. You'll notice in the minor lines commonly understood as wings, but I'm not referring to them as that for reasons which I will make very clear at the end of this presentation. But you'll notice that these minor lines exist as the neighboring types of these head-based types, and that's important. So anyway, we'll move into explaining this line convergence now and its spiritual significance. So path of 5. Note the lines in 5, as we've just seen before. It moves to 4 first, going back to go forward. Again, this is an idea taken from the Chestnut Pies Enneagram Academy. I have not linked this or referenced this as I should have, and I will be addressing that. So withdrawing completely, that move to 4, into a world of mental construction that is unique, densely packed with information, and deep as the secrets of the universe, it takes up its stance among personalities as the eccentric, brainy observer. And I hope you can see some of the examples and words describing the 5 that I have linked there, and which I've properly referenced, at least the image. Then to 6. So from going back to go forward to the 4 to form that initial, what we'd think of as the personality as such. Then there's the next minor move or line to 6, wanting and needing to connect with fellow human beings and contribute to their activity. 5 moves up the line, representing an increase in awareness and all that flows from it, to become engaged with people and envision a world made better by science and intellectual foresight, as is what these types most often, as I observe it, bring to the table throughout history. Five's major lines, as we looked at just a couple of slides ago in those images, are to 7 and 8 respectively. These are what you have probably come across if you've done a little research into this now. I'll try to explain it as best as possible. If not, that's okay. Are what are thought of as lines of integration and disintegration. So the point at which the type is most disidentifying with the limiting aspects of its personality to integrate, hence the idea of this integration as it moves up to aspects of being which allow it to become something more, to give of itself and to experience life in a new and liberating way. And then the 7 would be the inverse of that, as it scales down into greater regression into limiting aspects of the personality. That is one way of thinking about this, and it's certainly applicable, but I want to take a wider, more big picture approach to this, hence the topic of this video. So let's consider the meaning of these major lines to 7 and 8. Voraciously acquiring and assimilating what 7 does best, most often, an internal body of knowledge and data for mastery of life. 5 expands enormously at 7, having gathered knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of the world from every available resource. The 8 and 5 then enacts these patterns, plans, and systems that it has built up and prepared over time as concepts, asserting them and thereby itself into the world. So these descriptions are by no means exhaustive interpretations, but together I hope they will form a brief overview of this big picture approach to the paths of the types. So path of 6, I identify with 6 at my core, the type that underpins all my other motivations and behaviors in life. So that's just to be open and vulnerable with people. That's where I come from, so to speak, on my journey, and so it's particularly pertinent to me to talk about this path, this type. So the minor lines, thought of commonly as wings, and 6 are to 5 and 7 respectively. Again, going back to go forward, the moving to 5 first. 6 equips itself for the danger, meaning instability and uncertainty. Because it's not so often, thank God, in postmodern times that we have to battle with real natural world dangers, although they certainly do still exist. So thinking of it in terms of instability and uncertainty, that it senses about it with the words, wisdom, and plans of authority figures. This is a crucial aspect of 6, that it filters being and life and reality through the authorities that it aspires to, and brings itself in alignment with and under. So securing its place within a system, it takes on the rules of the system, of the authority figure or figures or organization as its own, and vigilantly, again, a key word for 6, lives by them for the safety that is assurance of itself and the community. Moving up the line to 7, pardon me. 6 is becoming more positive and open to life, as an average 7 would appear. It enjoys moving spontaneously, going on adventures, experiencing new things and ideas, even taking risks. The move to 7 means the 6 feels enlivened to speak its mind and make quick, impulsive decisions. Three and 9 are the major lines in 6, representing the crucial points of its inner work. 6 connects through its line to 3 to the hope, abundance, and self-assurance of the one who achieves their ends without hesitation or unnecessary caution. 6 gets things done with momentum and poise at 3. 6's spiritual work culminates at 9, at the top of the Enneagram symbol, where it accesses oceanic awareness and peace, and sinks into the predictability of its body. From here, 6 can breathe deeply, trust implicitly and completely its natural abilities and guiding voice, and work quietly and calmly to unite people and the world. Path of 7. 7 moves along its minor lines to 6 and 8 in that order. The line to 6 shows that 7 relies on plans, rationalizations, and people eager to go along with them in order to pull off its grand schemes and dreams in life. 7 wants to ride high and enjoy life with no strings attached. It needs to make itself and others believe it's just justifications, mental rationalizations for avoiding mundane responsibilities. Its next minor line to 8 in 7 represents its integration of life's difficulties and downfalls into its fantasies. Moving beyond a golden illusion of ease maintained for its pleasure and comfort, 7 wades into painful feelings and sensation, and therein finds the weight and substance of 8 to actualize its dreams and bear its own and others' burdens without fleeing. And then, as in the first slide, continuing that thought, and then 7 moves to 1 and 5, again in that order. Leaning into a role of responsibility at 1, 7 undergoes a transformation of personality and a revolution of character. I think of Iron Man is a great example of this, of such a character arc for those who enjoy and have seen the MCU come to its climax in Endgame. Brilliant examples throughout there. Out of moment to moment to hedonism, out of moment to moment hedonism, into the joy of sacrificing for an ideal, out of a lifestyle of acquisition and desperate greed, into a mission to give to and inspire others with wonder and excitement at life's riches. 7's move to 5 directly complements its connection to 1. Living at the edge of the head-based triad, 7s are highly intellectually capable and virulent, and by integrating 5's concentration, focus, and ability to deeply penetrate a range of subjects, they can become clear-headed thinkers and attentive problem solvers. And now we'll stare into the void together. That concludes the spiritual significance of the line convergence of the 3 types in the head triad, the 5, 6, and 7. A brief note now about the wings, which I've touched on in a way that I need to address now in a previous video. I made a video explaining wings in the way that they are commonly understood. A core type plus defining features of neighboring types. For example, type 2 is neighbored by 1 and 3. Thanks to the work of Chestnut Pie's Enneagram Academy. Oh no, here's the reference, folks. I was wrong. I now understand that this is a greatly limited to the point of inaccuracy way of understanding personality and applying the Enneagram system. As I stated from the outset of this session, human beings need to move, expand, integrate the multi-huge spectrum of being and be transformed in their entirety, not remain in a limiting set of personality defense structures. The goal is to become. That won't happen if we're content with the strengths of our types and don't know any other way of relating to people and life itself. I've linked the podcast video from Beatrice Chestnut and Uranio Pie's people to access later. And I'll be linking it in the YouTube video too in the description, so you can access that. So in summary, we have taken a brief glance, an overview, I'll call it at least that, of a complete Enneagrammic practice and come to understand how and why that is essential to our transformation as people. There's a lot of ground to cover, and that's okay. So I appreciate your patience and your willingness to learn this and sit with and take on board the lessons and the wisdom of this system. If there are no questions, we will conclude for today, and this video will shortly be on YouTube with that link to the episode from Chestnut Pie's Enneagram Academy in the description. Thank you so much, everyone. Blessings, be safe and well, and continue to deepen in understanding of yourselves and others, that we might understand the world and transform it through the process of becoming and becoming closer to one another. Thank you for your time. Thanks, Zach.